For my read aloud, I decided to choose Wutaryoo by Nilah Magruder. I picked socio emotional learning. This book really focuses on what it means to find yourself and to really dive into what makes up someone's identity. For an introduction, I would first start out with something like, today we are going to be reading a fictional novel called Wutaryoo by Nilah Magruder. Before I got any farther, I would ask for a volunteer to refresh our memory of what it means to label a book as fiction. Now that we have refreshed our brains, let's now take a look at the title and the illustration on the front cover. Let's use one of our weekly action words, predict, to possibly uncover what this book is going to be about. So looking at this title, Wutaryoo, what do we notice? At this point, the goal would be to hopefully have them start to think about or possibly notice the question inside the title, what are you? What do we notice about the illustration? And what might that tell us? Now that we have our predictions, let's read to find out what are you is really about. She was called Wutaryoo, and she lived there in that shallow hole in the earth. She was the only one, and she did not know where she came from. So right away, I'd actually stop and talk about the main character. The reason why I'd stop here, the purpose would be to acknowledge our main character and reiterate that as one of our story elements. So I'd say something like, right away, we have one of our story elements. We have our main character. Her name is, and I'd kind of wait to pause and have the class answer, what are you? She did not know her name either, but now and then a creature would come up upon her and say, what are you? Wutaryoo did not know how to answer this question, so she would ask it back. I'd also stop here, and the purpose of that would be to rephrase the question, what are you, into the sight words, what are and you. I would say something possibly like, that is a funny way to spell a question. Is what are you a word? This reminds me of 3 sight words we learned. Can I have someone come up and rewrite our question? I think that we are going to need this for later. Kind of getting them to think about that kind of main question that's going to follow the book. And the creatures would tell their tales. What am I? I am the rabbit. In the beginning, the first gardener was digging a hole to plant his cabbages. He dug too deep and hit the very center of the world. And you know what popped out? Rabbits. Now my people hop all over the earth. Wow, thought what are you? Here I'd possibly stop. The purpose here would be to relate to personal experience. Maybe I'd say something along the lines like, maybe this is why I saw all those rabbits in my backyard this summer. What am I? I am the wren, queen of the hedge. In the beginning, my people were as large as trees and ruled the world. Our size has grown smaller, but not our might. Magnificent, thought what are you? What am I? I am the wolf. In the beginning, my people were born in the moonlight. Now we run and hunt together, and at night, we sing our thanks to the heavens. Wondrous, thought what are you? What would be more wondrous, though, was if what are you could share her own story. Here I'd stop. I would talk about the text features and the concept of adjectives. I'd say something possibly along the lines of, what did we notice about the words magnificent and wondrous? They looked a little different, right? Why do you think that is? What type of words are these? And do we have a similar word we can put in its place? So kind of starting to get them to think about adjectives and synonyms. Every day, Creatures large and small regaled her with their tales. The bullfrog, the fox, the elephant, the honeybee, the tortoise, and finally the great whale, oldest and wisest of them all. One night, Wutaryoo looked up to the moon. What am I? Who are my people? Where did I come from? Surely I have a story too. But the moon did not know either. Possibly I'd even stop to talk about the word regaled, if that was something that we needed to go over. I didn't put that in my lesson plan that I submitted, but that was just something that I wanted to note. The next morning, Wutaryoo started walking and did not stop. Her friends had all come from someplace else. If Wutaryoo could find where she came from, maybe her story would be waiting there. I will search far and wide, she said to herself. I will go all the way to the very beginning of the world if I have to. Wutaryoo journeyed under tall trees, through dense grass and over rolling hills. She walked until she could walk no more. This would be a possible opportunity to stop too. This was not something that I planned, but even talking about the concepts of tall trees, dense grass, and over rolling hills, just that visionary piece of it. So she swam. On strange shores, she found a creature she had never seen before. I am the dodo. I have seen many suns rise and set over these islands, but I have never seen a creature like you. What is your story? I don't know, said Wutaryoo, but I will soon. Wutaryoo continued on, over rising terrain, until she reached mountains too tall to climb. So she dug. Deep in the earth, she found a creature she had never seen before. I am called the dragon, the terrible lizard, and many other names. My bones are spread far and wide through this earth, but I have never seen a creature like you. What is your story? I don't know, said Wutaryoo, but I will very soon. So here I might even mention, I'd stop to talk about a small historical piece and reference the fact that dodos are an extinct bird, and I might even mention mammoths and the dinosaur bones. Wutaryoo continued on, deep and deeper and deeper still, until it was so dark she could no longer see. So she closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was a tiny, very tiny light. She crawled towards it and found a creature she had never seen before. I am the protozoan, it said to her. I have been here since the beginning. I have seen it all, more than I can ever tell, but I have not seen a creature like you. Oh, said Wutaryoo. You have come a long way to find me. Tell me, have you discovered what you are searching for? Not yet, but I think I'm getting close now. I know it's a little hard to see the pictures. I hope this turns out for you guys. Wutaryoo walked farther than she had ever walked, and the land grew sparser than it had ever grown. I am coming to the very beginning of the world, she thought. My story must be over that last hill. So here I'd really stop to focus on what the students thought is going to happen next. I think this is a great time to predict what might happen. I think at this point, students would have all have an interesting viewpoint. Maybe Wutaryoo does find a story, or maybe she maybe a student comes up with another animal that she sees or something like that. Wutaryoo climbed the hill and came down the other side, but there was no story there. All Wutaryoo found was a shallow hole, her shallow hole. She had come right back to where she had started. Sad and tired, what are you curled up? Just as she was falling asleep, she heard her name. What are you? Her friends surrounded her. Here it is, thought What are you? The same old question. They will ask her what she is, and she will have to confess. I don't know. I don't know what I am or where I come from. Perhaps I come from nowhere. Perhaps I am nothing. But before she could say these things, her friends asked questions What are you had not heard before. Are you all right? Where did you go? What did you see? What did you hear? For none of them had traveled as far or as long as What are you? So, What are you told them about her adventures, how far she had walked, swam, dug, and crawled, about the creatures she had met, strange, terrible, and wonderful, and how her long journey over hills, across oceans, and under mountains had finally brought her home. At the end, her friends were very quiet, taking it all in. Then the whale, oldest and wisest of them all, said, Now what are you? That is a wondrous story indeed. The creatures nodded. Tell it again. And what are you did? So on the back, it has a little um a, a little backstory kind of ish, just kind of in question format. That says, What am I? Who are my people? Where did I come from? Surely I have a story too. That's kind of the a theme, and reiterating questions that pop up throughout the story. Inside the book cover, it reads, well, it gives a little bit about Nilah Magruder, but it says, What are you is unique, with large ears, tiny horns, and a fluffy tail. She has been asked, What are you all her life? But what are you doesn't know. Uh, while she learned about how all her friends came to be, she doesn't know the same about herself. Confused and tired of not knowing, she sets off on a fantastic adventure for answers. Heartwarming and relatable, this picture book highlights the importance of writing your own story and finding your truth. I actually came across this book um, when I was in Minnesota, and I thought this would be a great book for identity, socio-emotional learning, and even diversity to include in the classroom. This will be a staple for me, especially probably on the first day, or even when I'm talking about those concepts like identity. In this activity, the primary goal of the post discussion after reading the book would be to focus on those concepts of identity. Some of the post reading questions, one of them would be what happened in our story, what was the importance and purpose of her journey. So that would get students to think about the chronological order of our story and what that really meant for our main character, What are you? And this all relates to back to the concepts of finding yourself. How does her attitude change from the beginning of the story to the end? This would be something that you can use with the pictures, or I mean illustrations, really, to talk about the feelings that we might go through when we're trying to find ourselves. Just with the illustrations, they do an amazing job, I think, with trying to convey the emotions, even with the art style that they got going. I'm just trying to find an example real quick. But just going back towards the end of the book, it really kind of captivates that sadness. And the reason for that question would be to kind of go along with that. We like through life, we go through like mountains and valleys, and this kind of makes us or has a part of who we are. Another question would be, what were the other animals' reactions to Wutaryoo? When she got back, what did they do? And this would, the purpose of this question would really be to focus on that piece of having a supporting cast around you and how that helps you bring out your true self and identity. And the last question would be, how do your friends affect how you view yourself, and what's your story? A question like this allows the opportunity for students to critically think deeply about who they are and what makes up their identity. This can segment into an activity where students could write a fictional story similar to Wutaryoo. So maybe having them make up their own fictional creature, and then doing some type of chronological story, having story elements similar to Wutaryoo. Or it can branch even to doing a who am I poster that can be either presented or hung up around the room, just so that we can all learn about each other and really like get an idea for the diversity that's occurring here in our classroom. So yeah.